Shotgun red, I made a name for myself. I can't lie, I'm doing well for my age. My dogs said they're praying on my downfall. Well, they just choose in the casket, now they souls in the grave. I'm a star right.
I want people to understand that there's so much to life, whether you're the CEO or the janitor.
Giving everything you do at 150% will change your mindset and your perception of what you're doing.
Oh, you wanna know me? Well, I'm the man that you knew. Now you know.
Welcome to Now or Never podcast. All things entrepreneurship. People who just take life and kick it square in the ass. People who make their passion their paycheck. With my beautiful wife, Brittany Rexius, co-host.
Hey.
That's the calling card with Chad Cunningham, Studio402. Just so everybody's listening on the radio, homeboy's got the logoed shirt. And the logoed pants.
Too?
And I'm not at that baller status yet.
I know, I need a pair of Studio402 pants, Chad.
Or you can get Rexius ones.
Let's make some. I made myself a Rexius t-shirt with a local vendor.
Now everybody's going to
Shop
stare.
Nelly.
Yeah, now everybody's going to stare at your boobs. Anyway, so here we are. I think this is awesome because we first started this podcast just over a year ago. And Chad was one of my first couple of guests. Actually, we were like episode 3 or 4 or 5, somewhere in there.
Something like that.
And he didn't know he was going to be a guest on that episode. I told him like 5 minutes before we did it. And he's like, oh, shit. And so he didn't have anybody. I was working for him at the time. So he had 2 of his cameras. Both of them like would time out every 20 minutes. So Chad would run from one side of the table, turn the camera on, turn the camera off again or whatever, come back. I was beep, shit, hang on. We're going to go over here. And so now here we are a year later.
Yeah.
Killing it.
About 1 million minutes watched on our YouTube alone, thanks to Chad doing a lot of production, a lot of stuff.
It's the guy behind the mic, and ever since we brought Brittany in full time to be the co-host,
that helps a lot.
Pretty much,
I get some splash.
It pretty much fixed it all. And I don't know if that was my idea. Maybe I put that idea in your head
every single episode. Yes. Where's Brittany at? She available today?
Yeah,
I'm kind of feeling like you like her better.
No, it's been a fun year, man. It's crazy how much it's grown.
Well, I think the thing is how much have grown in the last year. So we first started this thing. Chad had just gone on his own, left the previous company, whatever, decided to do his own thing and started with the podcast and the production. And I mean, half our guests on our show hired Chad to do their videos, and
it's been good.
And I think it's great to not only show the beginning, but here we are a year later, and you have grown by leaps and bounds. And I think for our guests, our listeners to actually see as the process goes in, I think it's an awesome thing to see. Like, we are dealing with COVID. We're all dealing with some bullshit and adapting. And I love what you've taken as an opportunity that people can tell their story through video when they can't meet in person. And it's just made you go even bigger.
Yeah, I think there's been a silver lining for sure. I know that there's a lot of people that they have a ton of questions, like what's going to happen with the economy? What's going to happen with my business? What's going to happen with my family, school, all the things that are happening in the world. And they want to get their stories out there. And whether they have small business, which that's what I love to work with the most, is people that are kind of self-made, like you guys are self-made. You've lost it all, and you're
more than once.
and now you're living. This is the American dream. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. And
COVID's not going to stop us.
No.
Listen. I take it seriously. I know that there are people out there that are suffering through some of this stuff, and it's hard. But if you let it win, it will.
Yeah.
And you can't. We have to battle through it. We will. We've been through worse. We've been through stuff like this, and we can get through it. But I love working with people that are passionate about what they do, and nothing's going to stop them. And you guys are a testament to that.
What was it?
So it's been great.
We were doing the podcast. We flew to Pittsburgh, had an awesome episode with Seth Feroci. Yes, I pronounced his last name right for all you YouTube haters. And Chad had been out there, and then all of a sudden, we had to adapt overnight. And Chad's like, okay, I'm working with Zoom, and I'm working with this other thing, and then we're going to try to. And it was just all of us like, okay, over a week, all right, we're ready to go online. Oh shit, we need to upgrade our internet because we can't handle the width. And we just adapted. But it also made me very appreciative for when we get to have people in person.
Yeah,
I had taken it for granted, right? How much I like to play off other people's energy, and you can't do that the same through Zoom. It's still good. We have some great guests. We have John
awesome
Meadows in. We have Steve and Amanda Kukla. We're on. Go back, watch the episode. Now or Never podcast. Shameless plug. And but we were able to adapt. It made me truly appreciative for the times that we can do shit like this.
Yeah, no, I think technology has allowed us to be able to reach further, and especially with this, we've really had to lean on that to be able to get through certain things. But there's nothing like being in a room with somebody,
absolutely,
having a conversation, eye contact, that moment, those different things, the laughter. It sounds better. Not to mention the fact that when we work with the audio, and the video from the Zoom, it's just like not as good. It's not as it doesn't come across. I mean, it just sounds tinny and and computer.
Oh yeah, how many times Chad would be like, the audio's just not quite there. I'm like, and I get back and Brittany goes, you notice? I'm like, not really. But that's Chad's, but he's a real perfectionist at what we do.
Yeah, but it is a necessary, tool, for now. And I'm happy that we have it because we can reach out and connect when we're not able to be in the same room. But yeah, there's nothing like being able to sit across from people and have it out and really understand like what they're going through, because you can like hear it in their voice. Feel it,
you can feel their energy.
The laughter is just so much more real, and then the timing too, the delay.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's nothing worse than Zoom delay.
And all of a sudden you said a joke. I'm like, is that shit not funny?
Yeah.
Oh, no, they got it. Okay, it's good. Well, but I also think that I'm a glasses half full. That's just me. I'm an eternal optimist. Always will be. And I'm like, okay, well, there are things that made us more appreciative of things. And right now, this sucks for everybody universally, but it's in today's time with technology. And I may not like my kids not being able to do school full time, but now they have an ability to, with the internet and the technology, to be able to Zoom, which, let's be honest, 10 years ago wouldn't have been possible. No. So there's that, and we wouldn't have been able to have a podcast, which has just been done. Like, we wouldn't have had the ability to really do this. I mean, back then, like, Skype was like one of those things, like, I go, that's some new age shit I don't know nothing about. People didn't have the bandwidth. Back then it was still... It was choppy at best, and you didn't have the download speeds. So the thing is, like, it's happening now. It sucks universally, but technology's allowed us to be able to adapt to it a certain way. And the way that we've talked about this, like, able to tell stories through video now has never been more important than ever, I think, especially for people in small business. And you're able to bring that to life for people in ways they could never do on their own. I think that it's always been a growing thing ever since social media has become so powerful. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok now, Vine, the old. I miss Vines.
Yeah, Vine, that was kind of cool. It was like low grade quality when the camera phones just first came out. Now they're shooting 4K 60 frames, and you can do all this crazy editing on your phone with all the sparkles and you fix your the
blemishes and all that.
Yeah, right. It's got all this crazy stuff that they've added into these things. It's just like people have to have, but people have always wanted to constantly get their stories out for a long time, and social media has heightened that. Now with COVID, it's made it even, people are more hyper aware of all this stuff, and that also breeds false information and and different things like that. But I was going to make a point that, think about what's happening with college and school right now. These crazy tuitions that people are paying. Well, are you still going to pay the same tuition because you're going online now?
Oh, no.
And that's a huge thing right now. And I know you've talked about this in the past.
I hate how expensive it is.
It's a racket. We've talked about it.
And how much debt I don't want people in debt.
But it's one of these things where people had this idea, 25, 30, 40 years ago, maybe not that long ago, maybe more like just 20 years ago, where your kids have to go to college. You got to go to college. Yeah. If you don't go to college, you won't get a good job, and you won't be able to, fit in with the rest of society. You won't be well-rounded and all this stuff. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And what is?
And it was to begin with.
And a lot of people justified their kids going and paying that first. Like, we went down to, it was K-State, Manhattan Christian. It was a combination school with Lexi when she was thinking about going into wedding planning was the thing. And so we went down, we did the dance. It was having to be around a youth conference that we chaperoned. So we went down there and we started doing the math. And of course, an 18-year-old girl, she doesn't, $40,000 for 1 year.
Yeah.
And so she goes, well, blah, blah, blah. We started doing the math. Well, here's how much your payments will be just for that year. She goes, what are you paying for? I go, I'm giving you a car to go down there with, and I'll help you out with food. But if you it was like all of a sudden I go, so if you're only going to make 35, 40,000 years a wedding planner, and you're racking up 40 grand a year, this is how many generations it's going to take you to pay it off.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I think a lot of parents, and we'd heard this from other parents at the time, we want them to have that experience. That was the whole thing. We want them to have that I'm 18, I'm in college, I'm on my own, I'm taking gen eds, also aka waste of time and money, and all this shit. And that's gone now. Yeah. And a lot of parents justify that, well, I had that experience. Well, so did we, but it was I did, but it was a lot cheaper then. It was a lot cheaper in 99 than it is in 2020.
Well, our parents, they saw their parents have to sacrifice. So with World War II and everything came out, they saw them have to sacrifice, maybe not get educated. My grandmother, she was a teacher, so she had good education, but there were a lot of like her sisters and stuff like that, other people in their family, they didn't have the ability to have these nice universities and institutions to go to school.
Yeah.
And so I think our parents kind of looked at, we want our kids go to college, make something of yourself, because I didn't always have the opportunities to do this, and our grandparents and my parents sacrificed. But we kind of got tricked into this idea that it was like, if everybody's going to go to college, then they can charge whatever they want. It's sort of like the pharmaceutical companies.
They
can charge whatever because they have it. Do you want it? Come get it.
Right. And I think times have also changed from our generation to our kids' generation. When we were growing up and getting ready for that college years, there wasn't a lot of, there was a lot of self-employed people, but now there's like a whole movement of being an entrepreneur.
Well, entrepreneur back when we were in high school it wasn't a dirty word. It was, I'm an entrepreneur. That's AKA, you won't work for someone else. Right. You already got fired and you're not sure what you're going to do. And that's what it meant.
Right.
And now it's become trendy. And because there are some overnight sensations, there's still the exception to the rule. There's still a lot of grinding, but people are like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, what the fuck does that exactly mean? But I think, like we've said this before, like we've had guys in our gym, like one's a diesel mechanic and this dude's pulling coin. I got electricians that make well more than a lot of CEOs that I know. And so the fact is, we all got to have electricity in our house. It's not, I think it's just changed. I think more and more parents are like, they're looking at the people who are successful. I think entrepreneurism as being your own boss has got its own definition now. And I believe the things like that you do, the ability with, like you said, with social media and this access to people, you can be you have an easier path through entrepreneurship than you did before. It still takes a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
It's the time.
And I know that was a weird segue going from content and getting your story out, but there's a lot of stories out right now talking about how college is going to the landscape has changed. Mm-hmm. It already there were a lot of schools on college. Online. You could go to college online, get your degree, all that stuff. You can get your high school diploma online. You could pretty much do anything online before. But now it's almost like, why the heck would we ever go back to those? Now, being in person, it's a different, but why are we going to pay that tuition? Because if parents now are looking at tuition and I'm going to pay the same price online that I was in person, that's going to change.
Oh yeah.
And these universities are going to have to bring their tuitions down to get kids back on campus.
And honestly,
they're going to try and figure out a way to be able to incorporate both the online and hybrid the two so that they can bring those prices.
And the technology makes this all possible that didn't exist even 10, 15 years ago. And the thing is too, is that people our age and maybe the generation older than us are still paying a lot of those debts.
Right.
And I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
We're still paying a lot of those debts. I still owe money to Wayne State College for one fucking year because I was on scholarship the other 4. Now, granted, I was 22 and had no business borrowing that kind of money. And I did buy a PlayStation 2 with part of it and a lot of beer. But, so I had a really good time. But I think a lot of us are still making those payments. And every year we make those payments and realize that just goes down so slow. Where when our kids are getting to the age now, which they are, we're like, let's sit back and think about this. I don't want we all want our kids to do better than we did. And I don't want them saddled with this debt that follows them around every time they have to buy a house, try to get a business loan. Mm-hmm. It's constant. Every month on the 10th, I have to make that damn Nelnet payment, and I'm pissed. I'm never happy about it. And every time I bitch, I'm calling them. I never do. But it's just one of those things. Like I don't want my kids unless they really know what they want to do. But it's also very hard to say an 18-year-old kid, do you know what you want to do?
Yeah.
My mom, and I'll give this to my mother, and she was very good with this. She did not want us to go to college right away. She wanted us to go work for a year. I had an athletic scholarship, so I had no choice. My brother went to the military.
Yep.
But Scotty finally their last one, my mom will say they finally got it right. That's what my mom says. And so he traveled for 2 years, young American, singing and dancing and doing all that stuff, and got that experience. So when he came back, he was ready for it.
Yeah.
He had some experiences, and I think there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. And I think
she wanted us to go work on my mom's idea was she wanted me and Lee to go work on a cruise ship for a year, see the world, beg for tips. So we had a whole different appreciation for customer service and what we did or didn't want to do.
You take it more seriously. I mean, I didn't go to college right out of high school because I had Lexi, but I mean, I put myself through college when I was in my 20s, and I can guarantee you I got way better grades in my 20s than if I would have gone it when I was 18. I would have partied my way right out of college.
And you made use of your time because you had a baby to take care of at the time.
Right. And so when I was in my 20s and I was on the dean's list. I got straight A's. I was killing it. So
it really is amazing how when I kind of put myself in a certain position when I left my old company. I thought that I was going to grow with them, and instead I was more of just sort of like a barnacle. I was just kind of like hung on the side and just like hanging on for dear life, trying to survive off this thing. And I was like, I'm better than this. Yeah. So I made a choice to. It's sink or swim at this point. Mm-hmm. I've got a college degree, and I could go out there and try and use it and all this stuff. But it was one of those things where it was like, I finally found something that
you're passionate about.
Pretty good at. And then I found out that I actually really love it, And so passion or paycheck, the whole thing, it was great. And, I didn't know what it was going to be like when I came and I first pitched to you guys about the podcast and whatnot. Oh, let's just do it. Well, when you wrote me that check that day, it was like, dude, I could do this. Like, it's crazy. Like, literally, like, wow. So, my partner at the time was like, okay, let's do this. Oh, that's great. Okay, so now what are we doing? Well, let's invest it. Well, what do we do? Well, let's get some equipment. So we got some equipment, whatever. The next thing I know, it's a year later, here we are now, and it's like, I've got equipment. I have another partner that I'm working with, and this thing is growing. It's not like I'm ready to retire. I mean, I'm nowhere near that. But I finally have realized like I can actually do this because for so long I kind of doubted myself. I wish I had this same sort of like outlook on things 20 years ago. Just imagine what it would have been like when I first started college.
And that's the same thing we said. Like, I wish I would have done it sooner. And understood it. But that's the whole reason the podcast for us is like, okay, explain all the shit we didn't do. Like, we have guys working in this office with Chad that like, they'll come in, that's why the last episode, they're like, so how do you start a company? I'm like, oh, boom. Let's do an episode. Cool. But,
Blake, you're always welcome, buddy. You're always welcome.
And that's the point too, is that, and for us, like when it comes down to investing into doing this stuff, and I had somebody like, oh, it's just you got so much money to do this podcast. I go, no. Understand, I see a bigger vision. So this is prior to COVID. So I've been lucky in my life that I've made decisions. I'm usually ahead of the curve, and I've been building my Instagram for 10 years already. So I already had a following. And my thing is this, because anybody else who's in business right now who listens to this podcast, we have a lot of experienced people who listen to this who haven't gone to this realm yet, who are now seeing it because I talk to them and they're seeing what we're doing. So I do the podcast, A, because I love it. And B, I wanted to be who I needed at that time. So it's my way of paying it forward, feeds my soul a bit. But 3, it's because a lot of you guys like follow on our social medias. And I'm like, let's put that on a bigger scale. Let's get some production behind it. Let's put it behind the mic. And you guys are buying into what we do, which feeds all 3 companies that we own, VHI, Iron Heaven, and Rexius. That's an investment. It's no different than if I went on KTV, and I'm not bashing KTV, KMTV, or any of them, ABC News. I've advertised with all of them because I'm old school. I went back in the radio days and print. I can guarantee what we spend for some kick-ass production. It's a lot of work and it's money, but I've spent that much or not more on TV ads or radio ads that I don't get to have, that I have no way to put out without paying them to put it out.
Right.
Now I own this. I have it. It's on YouTube. It's on Instagram. It's on all these things that are now my content becomes an online library of everything I've done. Does anybody know where the radio ads I did back in 2010 are? Nope. And we have an idea where the 30 second story I tried to cram in between, the commercial 20 minutes after a Husker game that cost me $1,000 that I would pray and hope somebody might see. And then it's gone. It's fleeting. It's in the air. Yeah. So a lot of you guys are out there wondering, like, this investment, you just need to change your mindset that this is now online. It's there all the time. It can be on your website. It can be on your social media. It can be on your YouTube. For everyone to constantly keep marketing marketing. So if Chad creates a video or a podcast for us, it is now there for eternity, where the TV and radio ads I ran in 2010, they're gone.
Yeah.
I paid for them and they're fleeting. And there's no guarantee that somebody's going to be listening in their car at that moment. I have to pay for that 30-second ad, where if it's on my YouTube, whenever the hell they want to get to it, it's there. So I think it's an investment, and people need to understand that. And I think now people are really seeing the value of what you do, because it's a permanent record of the process.
Yeah, and I think to add on that and sort of like full circle, what I was trying to say about like education is we are constantly evolving, and I know we as Americans have always been very blessed, to not have to change as much as other parts of the world, and we've been pretty lucky to be able to have this, and I'm proud that we have that, because we've worked hard. But now we're kind of in this place where we're in a little bit of a crossroad. We kind of have to decide, make some decisions, and make some changes. And sometimes that, whether it's business, whether it's our outlooks on health, that's huge. I mean, that's huge, and that's another thing with this whole COVID thing, the silver linings, but. The way people educate themselves, the way people eat, the way people love, the way people do, those changes are so huge. And I think that the content and the medium that's so it's so available that I think sometimes it can get so daunting. But that's why there's like professionals like me and Laurel and some of the other people that I work with, that we're there for you, ready to help you get your message out as clearly as you want to get it, without. There's no, like Tim was saying, it doesn't just go away. You get to keep evolving that message.
It's a better investment.
And I think that's what's happening. Exactly. And I think that's what's happening with the education. People are starting to realize, like, man, I don't have to necessarily, take out, a lifelong loan, to go and get a 4-year degree anymore. Now it's so funny. Film schools literally can go to YouTube and learn.
Well, it's like this. So, like, let's say if you're in college and you want to take 12 credit hours, it's usually during the day. So you can't work, or you have this shitty ass part-time job. Now you can work those at night at your leisure, still make money, so you don't have to take out nearly as many loans to support your lifestyle. There's always a silver lining, and you're going to find negativity if you're looking for it, and you're going to find positivity if you look for it. And that's what's allowed us to change the video and all these things. You're like, you did a project. I don't know if they released the hair studio thing. But the thing is, it was a tutorial, Chad. You brought this whole project where they're teaching people how to do. They couldn't have an in-person live event, so they're teaching them how to do it through video. And now they have this record of this, which is fantastic.
And the crazy thing about that is they almost would, because they can sell these classes now to be able to reach more people than they normally would. So even if COVID hadn't happened, they would have done a live in-person class, right?
One time.
With one time, or, for a couple of days or whatever.
Sure.
But with like 500-600 people seeing it. Now they've got thousands, and they've got to follow, and that has been proven to be pretty beneficial. And hopefully, we're able to do some more work with them in the future. And I just feel like there are advantages, and then obviously, we started this thing up talking about how it's so great to be in the room with people, and it really is. But the landscape of things, we have to get used to or embrace certain changes, and there's going to be silver linings. So I think through this whole through COVID and through learning about all these things, I think that there's going to be things that we're going to we're going to adopt full time. And school's going to really. I keep bringing up school because I think that's a huge thing where people...
Because it's been a standard of our living daily lives for 50, 60 years.
Change.
And it's been this American thing. Like we've always really prided ourselves on, having good education and good institutions, and, knowledge is power and that whole thing. Now we're starting to rethink what that looks like. And you being parents, as parents, we have to bring people along with, because our ideology and our thinking was just so much like go to students, learn from.
It was based at our time in life and what it was, and it makes me look back to when we were in high school, how appreciative I was for the experiences we had, and how they're not. Some of those aren't having those now, and it's like, hey, and I have empathy, massive empathy. At the same point, like our kids. Like, listen, like we're teaching them, like, hey, you're going to have a job someday, and I'm not going to be there to wake your ass up. So the thing is, like, school. So our oldest son slept through his first 2 classes his very first day of high school. I'm like, that's a you problem, bro. I told you don't sign up for French. And I told you, don't start out behind because you'll never catch up. So he was up this morning. We're going to make some coffee. Good. But that's the thing is they're going to prepare them for a job. I think it's preparing them for what the real world's going to be like a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
And the thing is our kids who are growing up with this technology, they're actually more comfortable with it than we are. So I don't want to put my inhibitions onto my children just because I'm not as comfortable with it either.
Guys, some of the biggest stars right now that they look up to are YouTubers.
Oh yeah.
And they're I mean, these Jake Paul or whatever. I mean, I barely, I know, right? I feel the same way. I feel the same way. But these kids, whether or not they're necessarily, and some of the kids aren't looking up to them, but it's that entertainment value. It's that sort of like they latch onto things like that because they sort of see themselves in that sort of.
It looks like fun,
right?
It looks
like something,
and they're getting paid, and they're and it's what our son when he was 11, and you have to be a certain age to have a YouTube channel, so his birthday may have been changed. I'm like, go ahead and do it, and people are like, why? I'm like, those people are making millions. Start now. This is what you want to do. Go.
In the 90s, when Bill Gates coined the phrase "content is king," people didn't really understand what he was talking about. I think everybody was just like, at the time in the 90s, it was like you had to have these big, awesome computers, right? They had to be fast. You had to have internet. You dial up and all this, the 56K modems and all this weird stuff.
That shit.
You know, like some of these people listening to this won't know.
You used to go to Blockbuster and get that free 1,000 minutes from AOL, you know?
Yeah. Oh, something like that. Yeah,
remember that?
Totally. You almost had to have AOL. Anyway, I digress. The point is, like, he was trying to say that just because you have that, what are you filling it with? Mm-hmm. What are you doing on it? And the content. And now we are, I mean, our government institutions are using social media as a way to communicate and the way to passing policy through this stuff. Which some people it's a little gnarly. But
I think I explained this to some older folks. We were in the office actually in the building. They're a little older. Like, I don't like that. I go, guys, it's no different than FDR fireside chats with the radio, which at that point in time was considered uncouth.
Yeah, that was the first podcast.
It was the first podcast. It was the first time we'd ever had a public. It's no different. You just take the forum and the time, and it's just it's always. But I think at the same point in time, like you're going to take negative positive from anything.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Somebody else goes, "Well, that's a lot of money to spend on a video if it's $2,500 or $4,000." And this was somebody else in the business I was talking to. I go, "How much did you spend sending out giant postcards to 1/3 of the city of Omaha?" He goes, "Well, it's about $12,000. I go, and they're gone. 90% of those end up in the trash.
Yep.
And no emotion is ever created by looking at a piece of paper that's a couple pictures on it. I said, but what somebody can create with a video that attaches to a personality, that creates a loyalty, that feels a kinship, which is there forever. I go, what are you spending your money on?
Yeah.
And I think that, like I tell everybody else like 100 times, like I go, video is a bang for the buck. I mean, it really is. It's just people are scared of the unknown. And there was a company in my industry that used to be in town here, Complete something or other. And they were spending 60, 70, 80,000 a month on the radio. What? And what happened? Well, we quit listening to the radio, but that was their identity.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was doing a couple of TV ads, and I was the only one on TV. I was shooting these TV commercials myself. It was bad. I agree, it was bad. And I made a little program I bought for $10 online, or I might have pirated it for free if I'm being perfectly honest. And that was what was airing on TV. And I'm killing it because I only had like a budget of like $400. And I didn't have any money. And all of a sudden, like, I just blew up. And honestly, the reason why I was successful in 2010 to 2011 when I first started is because I was the only one on TV, because I learned I'm a movie guy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm attracted to. That's what I watch. And all of a sudden it turned in, these guys just kept putting more and more and more and more money into it. And it kept going down and down and down because people aren't listening to the radio. They're podcasting. They're satellite.
Changing the station.
And they're not listening to the radio anymore. It's just, but they didn't adapt, and now they don't exist.
Well, you think about a commercial. Mm-hmm. You almost have to be there watching it live to be able to get it. Now, yes, there are, DVR and you can rewind it back, but they're fast forwarding through that stuff. When it comes to your content that you're putting out, you're personalizing it, number one. Number two, it's on demand.
Yeah.
You can share it and post it to your
different
feeds
times,
at different times. Right.
People can share it for
because
you.
Because people aren't watching things live anymore.
Nobody can share
They're streaming.
Nobody can share a TV commercial at the 7 o'clock news to their friend down the street.
Right.
When DVR first came a thing, and I was just kind of pulling off. Well, DVR had been a thing, but it was really becoming a thing for me. And I was like, God, I kind of want to go on a social. About 2015, I was like, I just had this feeling that that's where it was. I'd read Crush It from Gary Vee, which was a 2011 book, but I was like, I wanted to be ahead of the game.
Yes.
And we were starting to grow, and I was like, I just think there's something here, and I didn't really get it. And it was getting so much popularity whenever I would share shit on Instagram or Facebook, and I wasn't filtering a damn thing because I don't know how to. To be very honest with you. And so I asked these TV people, I'm like, so what do you do about DVR? Oh, we have a technical answer for that. Okay, what is it? Well, people fast forward through them, but they're paying twice as much attention because they're waiting for their show to show up. So they're actually gaining the knowledge faster. And I go, oh my God.
Dumbest thing.
And they were like looking at each other like, great answer, And I'm like, I go, okay, cancel. And I was spending probably $5,000 a month on ABC. And
that's some epic bullshit.
It was. I was like, I'm looking at this. I go, that's pretty impressive. I cannot wait to tell Brittany about this because she's gonna shit like a brick, like a Christmas goose. Which I'll get to that in a second.
Inside story.
And so I was like, this is bullshit. And that's when I'm like starting. But honestly, it's been a learning curve for me as well. But I just started like, how much money have I wasted on TV, radio, and print that I can never get back?
Yeah.
And so even though like now it's funny for us to go back to episode 1. Now or Never podcast from a year ago. None of this shit is here.
I know it's hard to watch.
And with his mics, and we're like, welcome to the Now or Never podcast. Very excited. Like, we're like trying to figure where do we sit?
Yeah, where do we
one camera?
Go back to
Shit's going through. They're coming out here through the window back here, and it's just funny. So, but all right. So
should we go back to your previous ones when you were recording them?
No.
Okay.
I sound like I was screaming at an iPhone from 30 feet away.
Yeah.
In your radio voice the whole time.
I was like, welcome to 97 Jams. Hello, late night lovers. Call in for 3 easy payments of $39.95. Anyways,
I got OnlyFans page.
I got my OnlyFans page. So no, all right. So the story about the Christmas goose. I listen. If you're watching this podcast, we're deep into this thing.
Poll for this week.
All right. Have you ever heard the expression "shit like a Christmas goose"? Because I find this expression to be fucking weird. One, I've heard like, goose shit, but Christmas goose? Are we putting, is a special kind of goose at Christmas? Does it shit? I mean,
because you eat a lot of food at Christmas.
So and then you got to shit like a Christmas goose. She said this to me. I go, fucking what? She goes, you've never heard of that? We walk in, Chad, you heard of it? He goes, no. So we text her mom. She goes, why have you never heard? Like nobody else has ever heard of the expression shit like a Christmas goose.
Let us know.
Because goose at Christmas with a nice scarf, they shit twice as much.
The thing is, when she said it, I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? It is kind of catchy. Maybe
shit like a goose, maybe. Sure, but Christmas goose? Like, I don't know.
Maybe I've heard
it. Is this a special goose that came down after Jesus was born and shit a little extra? Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm a Christian, so don't hate on me. Fucking hey, Christ. But, wow, I just swore that was bad. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't, like, some of the expressions lately. Holy shit, girl.
Hey, I'm coming out of left field with some of them.
You come out of left field a lot. Anyway, so that's going to be a snippet. So now you're grown. You brought Laurel in. We love her.
Yeah.
And you've got you're working with Blake a little bit. He's coming in the office. You've literally taken over half the corporate office, which is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you went from like when we first started. Chad was like, "Hey, I got all these project ideas," because he had some time. And now Chad is flying all over the place.
How many
doing
hours
this.
a day do you work, Chad?
Too many.
Yeah, wait.
20?
I'm pretty much, no. So, gosh, I don't know. So my alarm goes up at 5:55 in the morning, and I usually try and get to the office by like 7. Today it was much later. It was 8:30. I was pretty tired. But yeah, I'm unfortunately burning the candle at both ends. But I'm working on a project that I'm really passionate about. My first documentary, full documentary project with Nick Langer, the Shredded documentary. That if you haven't had an opportunity, it's a little docu-series that we're kind of documenting his 14-week transformation for his North Americans that's coming up in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks already. So shout out to Nick Langer. Yeah, he's killing it right now. But anyway, that's cool. And once that finishes up, I'll have a little bit more free time, but then it's straight go to hopefully the next project. We are trying to get funding for a project. We don't have the working title right now is failure is the only option. And we're trying to highlight some of the systemic issues in education. So that's kind of why I brought a little bit of the education, because there's so much going on. And I think that's actually where a lot of our issues are going to come from, out of all this stuff. And I really want to like highlight, it's not just like, systemic problems with like racism or, xenophobia or misogyny or anything like that. Like, I think that there are systemic issues. There's kids that are getting undervalued because they come from families that are, poor.
Sure.
So there are disparities all over the education, and we're not bringing people in enough. We're not bringing parents. We're not incorporating them. We're not getting their voices and opinions enough.
I agree, 100%.
And I think a lot of that would be fixed if we just brought families in. Now,
100%.
Families like you guys are very active with your kids, but there's a lot of families that aren't because they don't feel like their voices are being heard.
Which, the school districts, they don't make it easy for families
we
to be
literally
involved.
we moved our kids because they wouldn't let us be involved.
Yeah.
And I explained it, and I knew the teachers because they shop at our store. It's just kind of the policy it was when they got to middle school.
And that has to change.
It has to change.
It has to change today. It should have changed years ago, but we have to bring our parents in more because I feel like that is where they're doing most of their learning is at home anyway.
Well, parent involvement
in elementary school, like it's great. They chaperone everything, and also middle school they're gone. And I had some of the teachers, they would love us to be in because one of the teachers goes, they don't listen to me, but they're scared of mom. They're scared of mom and dad, but there's a respect thing. And these are the same kids we have at our home that we want to know. We want the kids to be involved with.
Well, because things change so much with the school districts and with whether it's, because they've got to deal with, school districts have to deal with a lot of things. I get that because they have to deal with, making sure kids are fed, making sure they're like, they kind of are the watchdog for these kids. They have to police, they have to keep them safe and all this stuff. They're dealing with so much stuff, and I get that. So let's try and take some of it off their plate by incorporating the parents more. Now, the families that don't have the ability where their parents aren't around because either they can't because they're working, single parent families, or because they're just not around, period. That's tough too. So how do you do that? Well, we got to figure out better ways to be able to have somebody in the home that is involved with them at school. And I know that's wishful thinking.
Somebody that's in the community. It takes a village. We say it all the time. It takes a village. And
that's the thing is we have some kids that stay at our house every day for weeks at a time, and then that's totally fine. And it was these people I met at Tim and Betty Brennan years ago, and I was from college, and I went to their house, and their son was a few years older than me, and they had this kid, and he was living with them. I go, how long has he been here? He goes, about 7 years. What? Wow. He goes, he came over with their kid in junior high, and just wasn't a great family life. So we're like, okay, maybe we talked to his family, and they said they were going through some rough spots. So he lived with them and ended up following in Tim's footsteps and became a car dealer, which was what Tim did back in the day. And it was just one of those things because back then they were involved with the schools. They were there. Although you knew, like it makes
a huge difference.
And I think we were lucky enough. We grew in a small enough town that every parent knew every kid, and we all kind of looked out for each other. You knew if there was something going on, people stepped up, people did things. And
when parents get involved with their kids' school and their education, what happens is that kid then has a little bit more work ethic, or they look forward to being educated. Exactly. Yeah. And that is so huge for younger minds. They're not fully, their brains aren't fully developed yet, and
they feel valued.
Exactly. And that's actually probably and it's a great point because that's exactly what the documentary is really all about, is trying to find the value with these young kids. And a lot of them, they come from socioeconomic backgrounds that have always just been one thing: poor, straight, dirt poor.
And you think about it this way: there's a lot of epidemics that we deal with in schools right now that we're so worried about because our kids have access to each other.
That's a good word, epidemic, because it's true.
It is an epidemic. Bullying is an epidemic, especially for kids right now, because now it isn't like you get to go home for the weekend and have a break. They have access to you 24 hours a day. The other difference is so there's a kid named Paulie whose ass I wanted to kick horribly bad because he bullied the shit out of me growing up. happens to be my insurance agent now. But the thing I never did is because his parents were around, so were mine. And because I respected his dad and his mom was a sweetheart, I'm like, I couldn't have looked them in the face if I decided to enact my revenge on that kid who bullied the shit out of me when I was a fat, chubby little bastard. and eventually now, like, we're friends, and he's actually an insurance agent for all of our companies. And it is what it is. But because of that presence around kids, like, I wouldn't have ever acted. But the thing is, having parents around, I think you can fix a lot of bullying, because kids will get away with what we allow them to get away with because they're young, they're stupid. A lot of times bullies are kids who are just really low self-esteem, who had a bad home life, taking out on somebody else. And they realize there are other parents around, people that care about them that maybe aren't related to them. You can fix a lot of these epidemics that we're dealing with.
And I also think that there is a greater thing, with, talking about getting kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds to, feel more valued. And so instead of them being able to, so instead of them getting educated in school, they're educating themselves in the school of hard knocks, if you will.
Yeah.
And instead of them, because they feel valued, they can go out and they can go and do nefarious things, whether it's drugs or
fighting
whatever else, fighting
yeah.
or violence or guns or any of that stuff. Because they know that when they do those things, they're going to get something out of it. But they're not doing that. They're not getting it in school. Because what's happening is in school, they say, well, we're not going to spend time on you because you're not spending time on us. And we're going to go and pay attention to Tim instead of Jamal. And you can go and do it. But that's what's happening is they're like, well, fine, then fuck it. So we want to, what I want to do with this is I want to be able to highlight, well, where did they get that attitude? Well, they weren't born that way. They weren't born that way because when they were teeny tiny, when they were little babies, somebody loved them. Somebody loved them.
All behaviors are learned.
And exactly. Yeah. And so what happened? They learned it from a parent or from a family member because that family member was undervalued too. How do we figure out a way to get these parents to instead of not paying attention to their kids, be more engaged? Can we, those that, let's say parents are, let's say there's a black family and both parents are working or working too many jobs. Is there a way where our school systems can employ the parents, whether it's being bus drivers, dropping off meals, foods, paying them to do that? Because then they're actively around and that can be their second or third or whatever job. Because if they're already working 2 and 3 jobs, why not employ them in that? And that takes care of a certain, that's just one idea, but I just feel like the more we get them involved, I think it can fix a lot of those issues. It doesn't fix the whole world.
A lot of the friends that we've created over the last few years are the parents of the kids our kids hang out with. And we met them through going to school functions. Like I'm at the age of my life where like I got my very small circle and I'm good. But that's actually not. We need to constantly adapt our minds. The thing is we all get set in our ways with our schedules and our routines. And because our kids are not getting involved with their kids and like, okay, who's this? I want to meet their parents. Where are you staying when you're at their house?
And that changes things.
And it does. And it does change it a lot. And also, we look at things differently than we did previously before. And that constantly makes us adapt. And the thing is for our kids, like they're getting different experiences and whatnot. And I just think it's, the norm anymore is multi-part families. That just is.
I feel like we have like 3 podcasts in here. We talked about a lot of things.
We do.
No, there's a lot of, but no, I mean, I just feel like there is going to be a silver lining with this. Yes, I do think that we need to step back a little bit. And I think it was good that we were able to sort of lock down for a little bit. I don't know if that was a right, there were a lot of things that probably should have been done differently, but we never really gone through it before. It's new.
What was that Mark Cuban said? And it was great. He goes, everything you did is right and everything you did is wrong.
Yeah.
Straight up. Nobody fucking knows. We've never dealt with something quite like this.
They call it
somebody else said there, he goes, I don't know why you keep calling it novel. Okay, novel means never seen before.
Yeah.
So literally look at that word and understand, legit, it's never been seen before. So like, I have a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas in my freaking life that, and hindsight being 2020,
right.
But you adapt. And the thing is for us, like when it comes to business is, I'm glad that we started this process over a year ago and we were adapted and ready. Like we'd already been building this for a while, but especially with the content. And I think it highlights what you do and the importance of what you do.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways for everything from, what people use for video learning for schools, for professions, for their marketing, for that. You play a very important role.
Well, I want to be clear. I want, this is the last thing that I kind of wanted to get to was the Rexius name, you specifically, Tim and Brittany, both, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys. So you guys have allowed me to be able to sort of, you're basically, you're my biggest client, but you're also like my most consistent, but you like sort of, you're my venture capitalist. You are.
Look at me, I got a new term.
You invested in me and, you've given me a spot, you brought me in, and I think this might've been like a few months ago. I don't remember when, but it was so funny because I think Brittany and I were texting back and forth or something like that. And I think something had happened. I think maybe you had a family member pass. Was it you had something going on? You weren't in the mood or whatever. So I was texting Brittany, all this other stuff, and so it's all well and good. But I think I said friends first.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we were back and forth saying that's the thing is I feel like we did lose touch a little bit in the college years, but I don't look at you as a client anymore.
No.
I really don't. Even though yes, you pay me to do your podcast, and yes, you pay me for other content and things like that. But I feel like we've kind of built that partnership now to where it's sort of just second nature. If you need something from me, I'll drop everything for you guys.
And I think it's the same thing back when I have staff like, hey, well, Chad, I go, Chad's busy. I'm not going to stress Chad out with an extra project right now because I know your schedule because you're my friend. Yeah. I get like, well, he'll do it. I know he will, but I also know because I heard him talking about how much shit he's got going on. So like, because I think Cody had said something yesterday in our video. I go, no, chill. I'll talk to Chad. Relax. I'm not going to put this on him because he'll feel the need to do it.
But the biggest thing I learned from you is passion paycheck. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I found is every single project I go into, I want to make sure that I'm coming at it from, the heart. Yeah. And so even like with the Spartacus stuff, I'm not exactly the greatest gym goer in the world. There was a day back in the day where I lived in the gym, but like now it's sort of, but I've sort of embraced, because now I've learned from you guys, it takes it is a full-time situation. Yeah. It's a mind, body, and soul thing. And I'm like, God dang, like now all I really need to do, okay, I got the soul behind it. Now I just got to get in the damn gym and do the thing. But it is great that, some of the best people that I have in my life right now are people that work around your business, in your business, whether they're bodybuilders, whether they're, just entrepreneurs. And it's changed my outlook on things. Yeah. It's just amazing. So I just, thank you. Number one,
thank you.
But we have a long way to go, guys.
We do. We have
a long way to go.
And
the sky's the
we've
limit.
done this a year. Imagine 5 years from now.
I know.
Like, and we had my cousins in last week and how much work they've done over the last 5 years and what they finally hit. And every time I look at it, like it's a grind, it's a hustle, but I enjoy it. So does it really work? No, we all got to eat. Yeah. We all want to make money, and there's shit I want.
Does it get tiring? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you can walk away or lay down.
I don't dread Monday.
That was awesome.
I don't dread Monday.
No.
I get to see my friends that I work with.
Right.
And I enjoy what I do. If I didn't, I do something else. And it's really that for us. And it's like the guy we met this last week says, honor and dignity, like that's your core. And that feeds that number. Like, so if you have a number that you want to make in life, if your honor and dignity line up with that, you're doing it honorably and with dignity, you're fine. And so every choice you make needs to feed to that number. And now that number doesn't even represent a bank account. It can represent what you're able to do with life. Mm-hmm. We would like to buy a building for our church. Yeah. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. So how do I do things that feel honorable, feed my soul, that still allow me to make money? There's nothing wrong with making money.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, and the thing is for me, the way that I look at it is, and there's just two ways of looking at business with friends or family. So, and when you're in business, you got to set this line. Yeah. You do, because it's hard. I work harder for friends and family. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. I always did. And I know you do too. And there are some people that it's the opposite. I can skate by because they're friends and family. So you just need to identify who you're dealing with.
Right.
You work harder. We work harder. Yeah. We're willing to, and that's because there's a respect thing, and that just defines who you are as a person. But I mean, like you said, like growing up with family, like we've said this podcast before, your mom's the first hustler I knew.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like we're getting parents involved in that kind of stuff. We were talking about that and bringing it back to this. The whole reason we sit here is your mom borrowed my parents' minivan for you and I to run around random holiday inns and try not to break shit while your mom's selling baseball cards on her side hustle. Impacted the shit out of me.
When I was growing up, though, when you brought that up, when I was growing up, I never like looked at her and said she loves what she does. I always just saw her when she was tired, you know, because after work, I always saw her when she was, you know, frustrated with whatever, you know, if she had a bad sales day or whatever it was. I never really saw that. And now I look back and I go, she actually did love what she did.
Yeah.
She put all her passion, all her love, all her heart into it. And she employed people around her that wanted to do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, I look back now and it's like, that was a pretty valuable lesson. You know, I don't always reach out and tell her that. She'll watch this and she'll see it. So I'm love you. But that's the thing is like, you know, behind her back, nothing but like shower her with love, but to her face where I'm pretty hard on her. So just know that I do love you, Mom. But it's seeing what you guys have done with the kids and it's like, I don't know how you do it. And I know people tell you that all the time, but like, you guys have been able to still create a really cool brand, but something that still has like integrity to it.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be really easy for you guys to just slough off and just look for the easy paycheck.
And honestly, if I had done that from the beginning, we wouldn't be here right now.
No, and we have
And honestly, we've had many opportunities to make more money in the back,
cut and run,
but
right?
I think in cut and run, and we've chosen integrity over that because the simple fact is I'm very aware of my mortality. I'm very aware of my faith. I know I'm not taking this shit with me, and I believe in karma. And because we've started over twice, and I've been broke, and it didn't kill me, and I did survive, and I came out stronger on the other side. It's just changed my mentality. I can tell you when I was 28, about to face my first financial reversal, and went from making a lot of money, and I was scared to death. I mean, not going to lie, contemplated suicide at one point where I'm like, because this is the standard I had set and I've been told, like, go to college, get this, that, and the other thing. And I came through it and I was like, fuck it. What I got to lose? So I started to shop and cut my pay. And people, I've told that story 100 times, people understand like that for me was saying like, give it a shot. What do I got to lose? And because I've already been through it twice, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Simple fact is the whole expression is, no matter how rich you are, you can't buy health.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, my kids are happy and they're healthy and they've got a roof over their head. And my kids will say it to us, like, you guys work so much. I go, well, I'm doing this because I want to. And so I make the kids part of our 7-year-old. So he goes, I go home, I work on the house. I go, do you understand that I will never just sit here?
Yeah.
I just tell my 7-year-old, I go, you know how you have like ADHD and you're all over the place? He goes, yeah. I go, so do I. So instead of like, you know, beating the shit out of things in my bedroom or pretending like I'm a karate kid like you do, which drives us all nuts, I go outside and build things. That's when he goes, oh, boom, light bulb. Because that's, you know, and I think our kids get to learn, you know, hard work. And it's the simple fact is like, should I take more time off? Yes. I'm learning. It's a process. But, you know, it's one of those things that I think that, you know,
it goes back to being present. You're present.
I'm present.
You guys are present in your kids' lives, and they see you.
And it was funny because they were sort of talking about this number after talking to this VC guy about like, well, how much do you want to be worth when you're 65? And her and I both got extremely uncomfortable. And he goes, and usually that's not the case. Usually like, I want to be worth like this much. Like, I don't value myself based on how much is in my account or the shit I have. I don't. And he goes, that number doesn't need to represent that. It needs to represent if that aligns what allows you to do. And I'm like, ultimate goals, I'd love to build a building for my church. I'd love to walk into a hospital, be rich enough someday that I can pay off the top 10 most broke ass people who owe money to that hospital and just pay it off and change their life. Right. That's the kind of shit that I want to do. Right. You know, I mean, simple fact is everything I'm wearing now was bought by somebody else, including my flip-flops. I'm basic as shit. So I don't, you know what I mean? But it's one of those things like, yeah, we could have sold out Rexius, have been offered. Iron Heaven, we closed off memberships. That's me giving up money for integrity for the people who've been with us the whole time. It's just how we are. Yeah. And I think, but it's all about your moral code, but you can read that through people. Yeah. And I think that's why we started doing the video shit, because I'm like, you can get your message out. I can, and I can't. On a more
personal manner.
Yeah, we can. It's this is us. I understand. I think there's been one time. I can say this now. And one time in every episode we've ever shot where I had Chad cut something out. And it was literally for legality purposes. And it was way back when we first started. I'm like, hey, can we cut that 12 seconds out? Because that's going to get me sued. And it literally was a contract. I just shouldn't open my mouth. But other than that, we don't filter shit. Yeah. There is any production value.
What you see is what you get.
It's Chad adding in some music, some fade out, Laurel doing some stuff so it look good, and that's it. Because this is we don't time it. We just go until we feel like it's done. And I think what you've done over the last year is motivating, not only for us, because I love watching the process of entrepreneurs take that passion and turn it full circle.
It's a learning.
And watching you stress out a year ago to watching your stresses have changed to, oh my God, okay, this is a whole new ball game too. I got to bring people in to help me. It's awesome to watch, and it remotivates us being like, what am I bitching about? I'm 10 years into this, and I'm like, I love watching your passion for it because it gets me pumped back up.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And a lot of it, actually, I just sort of steal a lot of your ideas, to be honest with you. I just try and do.
That's what the podcast is for. Like, that's
exactly
it's to help people navigate their way, because it's a scary road sometimes.
I was just thinking, I'm not going to lie. I don't know how she does it. She basically, you guys have 6 kids, but he's a big kid. You have 7 kids.
True story. All the time.
Oh, I'm the largest child of all of them.
Like, it's crazy.
Do you count for a couple kids?
But not just that. Shut up. You have 7 kids. He's one of them.
Yeah.
True.
And like 2 full-time jobs, or 3 maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that amazes me how you do that.
And here's the thing.
A lot of nights.
I mean, I know you're busy.
And here's,
I know you're busy.
She does way more than I do. She's way more than me. But this, I'm being honest, like, for us, it was a major sacrifice for us financially, to have Brittany come work inside the companies, but it's our companies. Like, health insurance is not cheap, folks. And kids, but also at the same point for our family, it's a benefit because now we get to be around everything. We take them to school. We do those things. It was just a sacrifice, but it's what we did and decided, okay, this is more important for our family to be together. And 2, Chad has seen this happen firsthand when she went back to work for a couple months. I'm a goddamn mess. Okay,
I went back to work and I'm getting text messages every 5 minutes.
I can't find my fucking keys. She goes, look in the backyard by the pool pump. He probably dropped them there. I'm like, you're not even here. Shit, they probably are there. Like, how do you do that? It's just like kids are like texting her while she's at work. I can't find my backpack. Look underneath this over by.
The best, I was at Target and you were looking for Tyler's phone, and I'm like, look on top of the dog kennel. Because I knew he was by there before I left.
That's so great.
Sure, she was there.
It's there. That's before we had cameras.
And I look back, I cover the phone. I go, we're not going to tell her it was there because I'm not having the sad. But that's the thing is for us, we are truly blessed to be able to work together.
You guys should have a reality TV show.
Welcome to the shit show.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. There may be a pilot episode of Welcome to the Shit Show. So, well, I mean, hats off.
Don't tell anybody.
To you and everything you've done and how much. And a year from now, I'm going to do a 3rd episode. And we're going to see where you're at because I think it's so fun for people to see this and watch. There are people we literally know. They've messaged me this week. Have been watching every episode since we started.
Hopefully, I'm 30 pounds lighter.
Well, we can't get rid of the gray hair, but we can lose weight. We're both going to do it.
God.
And they're going to see it again in here in a year. And they're going to see the change. And I think that motivates. Anybody else has been sitting on the fence, God, I really want to do this. God, I really want to do this. And they're just waiting. You're now seeing a year later story of what he's gone through amidst a pandemic, amidst all this shit. And here he is on the other side, stronger than he was when he was a year ago. So what do you have to lose? So tell them how to find you.
Now or never. You can find me at the Studio402 _ on Instagram or CC Media Content on Instagram. That's the one I'm pushing most people to. I have a YouTube channel, but I don't put much. I usually use it for my clients and stuff like that. But you can just search me through that and find me on Facebook with the same handles and or just search Timothy D. Rexius. Just search that. You'll find me on there somewhere.
Yeah, pretty much. He's tagged in everything because he did all of it. So awesome. Well, thank you again, man, and congrats.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
The story is you are you, and I am me. Just be. I'm a gentleman, now I'm settled in. Even when they said don't let them in, I said guess again. What's the way I walk into a room and everybody stare? Godfather like presence, everybody know I'm here. Stepping right into my office, pouring bourbon on the rocks. Toast to the homies that could never see the light, and the haters that forever see my ghost. What a night.